Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today I'm going to show you another thing that I've seen all over the place, these really awesome lava lamp tumblers. I know I used to have lava lamps when I was younger, and now my kids also have lava lamps, so when I seen these, I knew I just had to make them. As always, I'll make sure to put everything that I used today down in the description box below, so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. So let's wake up, prep those tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. So this can be done with any type of two-walled or double-walled acrylic tumbler. These I happen to purchase through the Stainless Depot Company.com, but you guys can get acrylic blanks from anywhere, just as long as they're double-walled. I've also seen this done with your favorite Starbucks tumbler as well. You can purchase those at Starbucks. I've seen those all over the place too, so it doesn't matter. As long as it's double-walled, you're good to go. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to drill some holes into the very bottom of our tumbler so that way we can get this liquid down into it. Now I like to do 2 holes just so that way there's kind of an air hole to release any extra air that might be inside of it, because you want to be able to fill this as much as humanly possible with your liquids. So I had my husband drill out some holes in the bottom. Now, when you guys go to drill your holes, you want to be very, very careful. You don't want to get any of that extra little plastic pieces down inside, because you'll be able to see it once you're all done and you start using it, and you'll see little plastic flecks. So just be very careful and make sure you don't crack your acrylic, and make sure you get any of those little extra pieces out. I just like to take my hand and kind of tap any of those little materials out just to make sure there's nothing left in there, and kind of clean up the holes as well with a little razor knife. Now, the first thing that we're going to be using is this pure vegetable glycerin, and I just purchased all this right on Amazon. Again, I'll make sure to put everything in the description box below. This is the first thing that we're going to put into our tumbler. Now, as far as the amount that you want to use, we're pretty much doing a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 of the baby oil that we're about to use to 1 of the glycerin. So I'll show you guys a little bit better here in a minute how I measure that. But first, I'm going to go ahead and add my coloring. You can use food coloring, you can use alcohol inks like I'm doing here, and you can do these in any type of colors that you would like. You can even add glow powders and stuff like that, mica powders to your mix here before you put it into your tumbler to give it just a little bit more of a unique look. That's the great thing about this project, is you can actually do it with your kids, because this is extremely fun. Let them pick out the colors that they would like to use and have them help you. Obviously, when we go to do up the bottoms, they can't help out with that, but this would be a really fun project to do with your kids or grandkids. Now, as you guys can see, I'm just stirring it up really well. That's all you want to do. You just want to stir it up until you get about the color that you would like, and then we're going to start putting it into our tumbler. Now I'm using this little funnel that I purchased off Amazon, but if you guys plan on doing up a bunch of these and you plan on selling them in your shops, I would highly recommend getting yourself some pipettes, because it makes it a little bit easier to get all these liquids in there properly for you guys, so that way when you're doing a bunch at once, you don't have to worry about anything kind of spilling out, because these funnels were a little bit messy. So if you're using the funnel, this vegetable glycerin is very thick. So I just add a little bit at a time and kind of let it do its own thing, let it run down at its own pace, because it's going to take a minute for it to get to the bottom because it is so thick. So I found if I just took my funnel and just kind of lifted it up a little bit, it would give it a little bit more airflow. And if I tilted it to the side like I'm doing here, it would also do the same thing and kind of help it flow even better. So let's talk a little bit more about measurements and how much of this vegetable glycerin to add to your tumbler before you add the baby oil. Now, each tumbler has a different size inside of it, so I didn't want to give precise measurements because each acrylic tumbler is different. You might be using one with a handle, you might be using a larger size. This is a 16-ounce acrylic tumbler, so I just kind of eyeballed it, because you want to section it off into 3 sections, and so that's why I added as much of my vegetable glycerin first, so that way I could kind of see this is exactly where I wanted it. So I'm going to go ahead and tap this down, and I'll show you guys a little bit better here in a second. But if you see there, if you section it off into 3 sections, it would be about what we want, because we want 1 part of the glycerin and 2 parts of the baby oil. Now, I did get a big jug of the glycerin, but they do sell it larger than that. And they also sell the baby oil larger than that. So, again, if you guys plan on doing up a bunch of these to sell in your shop, I would highly recommend maybe trying it out first with a smaller batch just to make sure you like it, and then coming through and buying the bigger bulk sizes so that way you save a little bit of money while doing this project. Now that we have our main lava look into our tumbler, we're going to go ahead and fill up the rest of the way with our baby oil. And as you guys see, like I said earlier, because I am using a funnel, I want to make sure that I add my liquids very slowly so that way they don't bubble out the top. And another thing that helps out is adding it slowly so that way it gives any little air bubbles that are in there a chance to rise to the top as you're filling up your liquid, so that way you don't have too many air pockets once you are done. And once you get that liquid all the way to the top, as you've seen, I kind of have it tilted. I'm going to go ahead and lay it back down flat so that way I can continue to top this off. And you want to keep going until that liquid is all the way up to the holes that you made in the bottom of this tumbler. And once you are done completely filling it up, it's inevitable you might have got a little bit of baby oil on the bottom here, and you want to make sure that you come through with some rubbing alcohol that you spritzed onto a rag and clean it up the best that you can. You want to make sure there is absolutely no baby oil on the bottom, or this UV resin will not stick to the bottom of your tumbler. And once you are done cleaning up really well with your rubbing alcohol, it will be time to go ahead and seal it up. Now, I've seen so many different ways on how to plug up the bottom of your acrylic tumblers after you do this process. Everybody's technique is different. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Most people do use this Gorilla epoxy, which is a two-part thing where you have to mix it together really good, and then you can put it right over the holes of the bottom of your tumbler. But I'm just going to use some UV resin and some clear transparent film. Now with the UV resin, you need some type of UV light. So I purchased this UV light, or you can just simply stick it out into the sunlight if you have a nice sunny day, and it'll cure that way as well. Now again, this film that I'm going to be using is the same exact transparent film that they use for those shaker keychains that you guys might have seen around. That's exactly what I'm going to be using to plug up my holes. And as you guys seen in the back, I already had a bunch made up, and that's what it looks like. I didn't do any type of coloring to the epoxy because I wanted you guys to be able to see it before I did it up here, because I'm going to be coloring up this resin before I apply it. But the first thing we want to do is go ahead and tack down our transparent films first. And I just want to make sure that I do a really good circle around each hole, because I made two separate cuts on my film here. So I'm just do a nice circle around each. I'm going to go ahead and apply my transparent film right over the top. I'm going to take a popsicle stick and push it down really good and make sure that it's on there really well, so that way there's no air pockets, and it's going to seal up really nice for us. Then I'm going to give it a couple passes of my UV light to make sure that it is stable, and then we're going to go ahead and fill in the rest with the rest of our UV resin. Now on the back of this box, I do recommend about a 4-minute processing time with your UV light, but I just wanted to simply tack this down. So I just gave it a couple passes, and then we'll continue to cure it once we apply the other epoxy or resin over top. Now to make it blend in, and so that way, your customers don't see the holes that you drilled and everything into the bottom, I'm going to simply put a little bit of my UV resin into a cup. I'm going to go ahead and put my dyes into my epoxy and color it up really good. You can do it any kind of color you'd like. You can even add a little bit of glitter to it if you'd like to as well. And then you want to go ahead and just pour it right onto the top of your tumbler. So let's say you didn't wipe the bottom of this off really well, and there was still baby oil on the bottom here. So once you apply your resin and you go to apply your UV light, what will happen is that resin will completely pop off the bottom, and you won't have a good seal at all. You want to make sure that you guys clean that base up really good and prep it really well for your resin. Now, once I am done doing this, I'm going to go ahead and give it that 4-minute pass that they recommend on here. You could go ahead and just set it out in the sunlight. I think it takes about 10 minutes, it said, in a nice sunny situation, or 4 or 5 minutes in a nice sunny situation, and about 10 minutes if it's cloudy out. So you just want to make sure that you properly cure the bottom here and do exactly what the instructions say on the back of this UV resin. And once you are done doing that, it's ready to be flipped over and have your seal tested. Now you will know if your seal is not properly sealed, if little teeny tiny bubbles start to come up through the bottom there, right where you did your holes. So if there's no little teeny tiny bubbles, they are good to go. This project was so fun and so easy to do. I know you guys absolutely got this. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.